Well, hi everybody. It's Heidi and
Jami
from Hen Chicks Studio in Conrad, Iowa. And Jami, is it hot enough out there for you?
I don't know. I think I need to turn up the temperature a little bit.
That's right. Get a little
steam.
steam. Have a little steam bath. Oh, wait a minute. We can just walk outside and do that.
Yes.
Well, you know, the more I was thinking about the heat today, it did get me to be thinking about pressing and ironing. And there's a lot of discussion and information around that, and I'm actually I'm going to be starting. I'm going to call it a blog, but a place where I put some random pieces of information like this that we talk about. And so as I was getting my information ready to put up on the website, so this will be on the website, so you can reference it. I thought, you know what, this is a great time to talk about because first of all, pressing versus ironing. Those are two different things. Did you know that?
Yeah, and take it one step backwards, Heidi, even before pressing versus ironing. Is pressing or ironing even important when you're quilting? And why is it important when you're quilting?
Absolutely. There's so many different reasons why using an iron, however we choose to use it, as pressing or ironing goes, is that if our pieces are cut correctly, they're sewn together correctly, and they're pressed appropriately, then our piecing is more accurate.
Absolutely.
Our pieces lay flatter. There's a lot of things that we can talk about with that.
And there's a lot of tricks that I think maybe some people haven't really thought about, and it's always interesting because even when you're an experienced quilter, you're always learning new stuff all the time and little different tricks or ideas and stuff. But sometimes you gotta go back to that very, very basics of cutting, pressing.
Yes.
I mean, really, that's
oh yeah,
that's where it all starts.
You know, we had a whole class last year all about 1/4 inch seams.
Yep.
And that's how important that one little step is in what you're doing, is that it is worth spending time getting that one piece accurate.
Yeah, and truly, with your pressing, it's not even taking more time if you're doing it accurately or nicely, whatever word you want to fill in the blank. But it's actually in the long run, I think, saving you time.
Yes, it is. I would agree with that.
So when you say there's a difference between pressing and ironing, would you explain that?
Absolutely. Okay, so they're all going to find out what happens at our house. Ironing is for when you iron a man's shirt, right? When I have to iron, but I don't do that. My irons don't do that. That's what I use the dry cleaner for, because I can't iron a shirt well enough to make it look professional for my husband to go to work. And so my joke is, our irons don't know how to iron. So this is physically an iron. The act of ironing would, and this is not on, so don't worry, we're not. The act of ironing are large, swoops. Doesn't matter which direction you're going. You could be stretching things. But to me, ironing is more of what you would do for a piece of clothing, or imagine an apron laid out on your...
Or that skirt.
Or a skirt that you're going and doing broad strokes, and they're large. And, again, that's what a dry cleaner is for. Okay. But pressing is what we do when we're quilting so that pieces stay more... I'm going to say less mobile. When we press, it literally is the act of up and down, pressing, moving it over, up and down, pressing it, rather than pulling back and forth like I might with an iron. Because when you start working with small pieces, that motion back and forth, you could actually start to stretch the pieces that are underneath of the iron if you're ironing versus pressing.
Well, yeah, and I hope that makes sense, because you can, as we know, every fabric, and some has more of a stretch to it or not. Right. So it's just a caution. So when you're talking about giving these tips, Heidi, it's just to help more success.
Correct. Because, say, for example, we know that this is probably a straight grain. This is a straight grain. And back to a little home economics lesson or family and consumer science. But if the outside edges are on the straight of grain, what does it mean if we're going across this way? That's the bias. And the bias has the most stretch. And so if I were to take this and go boom, back and forth on that bias, I very likely could stretch this, because look at, can you get close enough? Look how when I pull that, can you see how it is actually stretching? Well, imagine, that didn't take much for me to, I mean, I wasn't pulling that hard, that if I was doing that with a hot iron and there was steam involved, that's fabric, it could easily be stretching. And so you have to be a little bit more careful with that. Now, you know, I'm going to say, we know the difference. People, I just want to make sure everybody truly understands, we know that some people are still going to call this ironing. That I'm ironing my pieces.
You're just giving a different
That's
approach,
okay.
yeah.
You can still call it ironing, but it's more of a difference in the technique that you use when you're ironing, and certainly that's something that I want to address. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about when we're ironing. The first thing that I learned to do years ago, and I think does really help, is I like to set my seams. Okay, and so what does that mean? So if I sew these two triangles together, and I've come across, and do you need to come in a little farther there, Virginia? So if I am sewing and I have these two pieces laid together, I would actually put this down, and I would take my iron with a little steam, and I would go over it, give it a little burst of steam, press it, and then I would go ahead and open it up and press it again. I always put the color on the top that I want to press the seam toward. So I want the seam to end up going toward the black. So the black is on top. So I've set the seam with a little burst of seam. Then I take my tip and open it up, and then I would go across, and I would do just a little bit of like making sure it's open, and then I would press and set that seam open that direction.
And so one thing, Heidi, when you are talking about this, and what comes to my mind is when you're explaining where you want the pressing to go to, which direction you want it to go to, because so many patterns now are giving us great pressing directions.
Yes.
So it's important to pay attention to that. But obviously it's going to make sense to open it where you're going, where you want that seam to lay.
Yes. And do pay attention, because if the author or the designer has done their job and they're telling you to press in a certain way, it's because they're trying to make it easier. Because what you want to do is, if all of your pieces are pressed in the same direction, they're all, in that particular case, pressed toward the black. Let's say you've got to put those two together. Now you can, this is the one time it's okay to use the word butt. You butt up your seams, and now as you move this back, look at how that lip, there's a lip right there, and this lip are like joining forces and lock together there.
Oh, that just gave me a song. Sorry. Sorry.
We won't even discuss what song. And so that's where you want to be consistent in how you press.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, there are those times where you get off on a block, and again, is your quilt going to be, is it the end of the world if you press them? No. We're just trying to make it. We're just trying to make it easier.
Tips.
Yeah, give you tips to make it easier. And so now I'm going to go back. You've heard me say a couple of times, I like steam.
Yes.
Do you like steam?
I like steam.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are people who do not like steam.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it probably is a personal preference.
I think it probably is. Just as with everything, the methods.
Yeah. I don't think there's the heat is going to do as much good as anything.
And Heidi, let's also preface that with, we are talking about using higher quality fabric.
Yes.
Nice quilting quality of fabric.
I would agree with that.
Because not all fabric is created equally. So I could see if you were not using the nice quality that we offer, maybe there is problems created with steam, but that's, again, it's a personal preference.
Yeah. Okay, now, before we go on to my next thought, the other thing about this is I do not pre-wash
And I don't pre-wash
any of my fabric. So especially the batiks come with enough sizing in them
yes
that it is not necessary to add anything. If you use the sizing as it comes and you do not pre-wash, the pieces have a
little bit stiffer feel.
Stiffness to them
for sure.
that it makes it easy to go through the machine, that kind of thing, you know. But if you're a pre-washer, and again, this is a personal preference.
Absolutely.
You know, this is not. Again, I haven't washed my fabric for years. But if you happen to be a pre-washer and you've taken that sizing out, it can change the direction of fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, it can be much easier to manipulate with an iron,
right.
which is not a good thing. So then people come back and they use a product like Best Press, which is very good for doing that.
And so we know we have some people that absolutely love the Best Press. Again,
yes.
That's not something that you use. I use it only if I'm using very small pieces, just to give that extra stability to it, like the tiny piecing.
Yes. I don't do tiny pieces.
I do.
I leave that up to Beth Jackie.
Yeah, but that's the only time that I use it as well. But some people, again, personal preference.
Yep. And so we do carry a Best Press in both this size as well as the larger refill, if that is something you need when you are pressing. So that is a personal preference as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Steam, no steam. Okay, I think then we talked about which way we're pressing. Let's talk a little bit about what we've got here. Mm-hmm. And this is a size we've had in the past. This is a wool mat. And the current size that we got in is this little wool mat right here. It is 17 by 24. And it is $55.99 in case you're wondering. We even have them in the mini size, which are awfully darn cute.
Just cute.
Just as a little added cute. But I will say that there are more and more benefits. The biggest benefit of using a wool mat is that it holds the heat. And so now, while I'm trying to press, and I have this on top and that on the bottom, it's like a sandwich of pressing. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I had to do some applique the other day, and long story, but anyway, trying to use fusible. I was struggling but I was not using a wool mat. Virginia came in, and I needed a little bit more, and she ironed that sucker right together. Well, she had this underneath, and I'm gonna swear that it made all the difference in that heat was coming from both sides of the source. And I think Virginia did a good job. That way. So I think this is a new thing. We're certainly seeing a lot of people who are retreating, that are coming with their own ironing supplies, and they're liking the wool mats, to have a little ironing station right next to them wherever they're working.
So again, personal preference. Some people like the large size of it. Some people like to have it right beside them, or set up a little TV stand right next to their sewing station, kind of thing like that.
Yes. Yeah. So many different things. Anything else on pressing that we haven't covered that you might add?
I would just say the biggest thing when you are opening it is to make sure you actually are opening it all the way.
Yes.
And not getting that extra lip.
And when I say there was a lip, I'm talking about I'm talking about more of a, like a, it's the thickness. It's not like there's anything extra. And I'm going to say, we see sometimes people come in, and can you get up here? And and there's more of a literally like excess fabric, almost like a little piping, if you want to say. You want to have it so there's just a lip that you go over. Yeah. So that certainly
that's the biggest. As far as when your accuracy in piecing your quilt together, that's going to be helpful too.
And even if I'm doing strips, like I've sewn strips together, I'm still setting with a little steam, and then going back and opening it up along the way.
And there's all sorts of other tips that could be with any of these things we're saying. I know it's hard for us to focus because there's so many bounce offs that you could do on each one of these, of just little things to help us
Yes.
be more successful in what we're doing
Absolutely.
and feel more accomplished in what we're doing
Absolutely.
as well. Because
Absolutely.
anybody can do it.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, we have taken some time this afternoon to try to beat the heat around here, and I hope that you've maybe learned a little something. Be sure to put in the comments any pressing questions that you have or suggestions that you have, and we would love to hear from you as well. So until the next time we talk,
We'll stay inside.
and you be creative.